Hi, my name's Olivia. I'm a first year medical student, and today I'm going to be talking about how my relationship with God has impacted me over the last few weeks. So when I was first asked to make this video, I was coming from a very different angle. I was going to speak about how my relationship with God has affected my experience of lockdown as a whole. However, the racist incidents and global response over the last couple of weeks has meant I've been turning to God with very different emotions and questions. Pain and injustice, and the need for compassion. Racism is a hugely important and often very emotional topic for me and many others. There's far too much to say on the very real impact of systemic racism, both in the US, the UK, and even in the church to cover in a short video. And that's not what I'm going to be addressing. Rather, I'm going to be underlining a couple of ways in which my relationship with God has helped me and continues to help me process the events of the last few weeks. First of all, I've been emotionally exhausted. Racism is an uncomfortable fact of life that many of us learn to live with, maybe even pushing it to the back of our minds for some length of time before a personal incident or an event like the murder of George Floyd forces us to process the reality of it. Despite how positive the global response to the George Floyd murder has been, having to constantly address and process the reality that I live in a society in which I'm judged on the colour of my skin and often found wanting is emotionally draining. I want to encourage everyone to reach out to their Black friends and ask how they're doing. A lot of people are finding it really difficult and could do with your friendship and prayers. But how does God come into this? In the face of huge exhaustion, especially last week, I found myself clinging to promises God makes to his people in passages such as Isaiah 40, which I'm going to read now. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. I read this passage in the midst of a particularly difficult day last week, and the knowledge, both mental and emotional, that I'm resting in a God who won't grow tired, but equally who understands that I definitely will, and will care for me in that, has been an anchor that I've really clung to this week, and an assurance for which I'm hugely grateful. Second, I'm so thankful to trust in a God who is just. Last week, I expressed my frustration to a friend, not only at racism, but also at the mess and conflict of the response. Her reply really struck me, so I'm going to read it out now. I find it upsetting that even when, by God's grace, true injustice is recognised, we don't seem to really know what to do, and our leaders are the most naive. But I guess we shouldn't be surprised, and we must find comfort in knowing God is the perfect judge. So all wrongs will be justly dealt with when Christ returns. But moreover, find comfort in his grace that he made a way for justice and mercy to be perfectly satisfied. We have a God who cares greatly about justice, as demonstrated throughout the Bible, but particularly strikingly for me in the early Psalms. David writes these Psalms as a victim to wicked authorities and implores God again and again to show justice, and again records the peace he feels at the assurance that God will be just. For example, Psalm 9 verse 4, "For you've upheld my right and cause, sitting enthroned as a righteous judge." As Christians, we're also commanded to stand up when we see injustice. Isaiah 1:17 tells us to learn to do right, to seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, and plead the case of the widow. We have a God who is deeply hurt by injustice, and as his people, we should also be hurt, and we should be advocating for change. Ultimately, however, we can rest in the fact that our God is a good God and a perfect judge. We know that in this world, injustice will continue to thrive, and it's only through God, the perfect judge, that justice will ultimately be satisfied, a truth that we can hang on to. Finally, I love that God knows exactly how I'm feeling. This week has been filled with so many conflicting and difficult emotions, which I've really struggled to articulate when people have asked, including when recording this video. A massive blessing has been knowing that God knows how I'm feeling better than I know myself. I don't have to try and explain to him. I can rest in the knowledge that he knows how I'm feeling and that he cares deeply.